such a privilege to get to speak on this Sunday. We get to talk about this idea. We're kind of wrapping up the month of February, wrapping up the month of love actually, and I get to talk about love actually fulfills. And just to be able to do that at the same time that we're introducing this ministry that Gabe has, we're going to be kind of zoning in on this key statement in the book of Galatians, chapter 5, and the second half of verse 6, that the only thing that counts is faith expressing itself through love. And this idea of love actually fulfills, the only thing is faith expressing itself through love. Gabe's ministry is doing that, and I feel so privileged. I've known Gabe for a long time. We got to know each other in Florida. The church that I worked for had this neat little idea where we would have a discipleship academy where we would invite these young men in and they'd live at the building, and some of us that worked for the church and were leaders in the church would come in and we'd teach them the Bible and teach them ministry practices and mentor them in their lives. And I got to mentor Gabe for years, and so we became very, very close friends. And so I got to be with him as he walked through this process, went on missions trips, and decided, I want to be a missionary, and I want to reach people for Jesus all over the world. And then when he came up with this idea, which I just thought was fabulous, it's like, they're coming to us, they're coming here, why not teach them, reach them while they're here, and then we can just send them off and send them to be missionaries to their homeland. And it just was such a neat idea that I just feel like God blessed me to be a part of that with him. So through my time mentoring Gabe, I saw him grow from a baby new Christian to this awesome leader that he is now. And I got to be involved in a lot of his life experiences. And one of those big ones was I was around when he met his girlfriend, and they met online. And so I was kind of able to watch how his relationship built up. She lived in Pennsylvania, and he lived in Florida with me, and not with me, but around me. And so it was this timing thing of he was getting ready to be finished with this program, and he was getting ready to get married to her, and they were going to go off to Missouri and start their ministry and more training there. And so her being from Pennsylvania, she thought, well, what a neat opportunity to have a beach wedding in Florida. And so they were planning on having her family come down to Florida. They were going to have this beautiful beach wedding on a Saturday, and then they were going to go off after church on Sunday and head to Missouri. She was going to move all her stuff down. And so she brings all her stuff down the week of the wedding, and they're kind of packing up and ready to hit the road after this wedding. And then the news, the Weather Channel tells us that a hurricane is coming. And so hurricanes are tricky because you never really know, is it going to be a big deal? Is it going to hit us directly, or is it just going to kind of swirl around and give us a little bit extra rain? And so you have to just keep watching. You got to keep watching the weather. And so we're getting closer and closer. And as we're watching the weather, we're looking outside and the wind is picking up already. And it's like, okay, we're not doing a beach wedding on Saturday, but it'll be okay. We're going to do a fellowship hall wedding on Friday. It'll be great. The governor had already called for evacuation, so people were heading out of the state. But we're all preparing on a Friday afternoon to get ready for a Friday evening wedding. It was going to be lovely. Well, her family was supposed to come, but it ended up just being her mom and her brother, and they were having trouble getting a flight because the flights were delayed. What airline wants to fly into Florida during a hurricane? And so that, I think the original time was 7 o'clock that the wedding was supposed to happen. Well, we didn't want to have it without her mom. You can't tell a bride to get married without her mom showing up. So we waited, and I think her plane landed at about 10 o'clock. And so we're all at the church, and we're waiting. But she's at the airport, which is about an hour away in Orlando, and no taxi, no Uber driver is wanting to drive out to an island towards the hurricane that is coming, that's supposed to be coming in the next 6 hours or so. And so we're waiting and trying to figure out how are we going to get her mom here. And I loved Ina, Gabe's wife's name. I love Ina and Gabe's, their determinations. Like, we're going to do this thing, and everybody in the church is trying to support them. We're going to do this thing. And so finally, one of our church members had a son in Orlando that happened to be an Uber driver, so they called him up and said, can you please bring them over? So they picked him up. And that was the first wedding I got to perform at 2 o'clock in the morning. It was really cool. But even after that, Gabe was not going to let a hurricane stop him from marrying his wife. And he and she went to Missouri. They were there for a little bit of training, and then they moved over to Indiana. And he's had a lot of hardships, and he's had a lot of tough times. He's had to switch ministry partners and get losing support and having to gain new support, and just trying to figure out how to get the ground running. So seeing how he has worked through this situation, it really just tells us that with him, the only thing that matters is faith expressing itself through love. And that love actually fulfills. Love is actually fulfilling the physical needs of these international students so that Gabe and so that others with him can fulfill their spiritual needs, and opening the door for that. Love is actually fulfilling, and it's that faith expressing itself through love. So in this discipleship program I had another friend, another young man that I got to mentor. His name was Parker. And Parker, it was kind of a similar situation. I didn't know him as long as Gabe, but we were very, very close friends. And he also met his girlfriend online. And because we were trying to disciple these guys and really mentor them and really help them get off on the right foot, we had a lot of rules and restrictions because, things can happen when you're dating, and young people are young people. So we just wanted to make sure they had a lot of guidelines to follow to make sure that, everything was on the up and up. So he mostly dated his girlfriend at my house, because we didn't really want them to be alone together too much. And so they'd go out, they could go out in public places. They go see the movies and go to the mall and things like that. But they ended up spending a lot of time at our house. And so his future wife, his girlfriend would come over and pretty much move into our house on Friday and hang out all day Saturday with him, spend the night at our house, spend the night at our house on Saturday, and then go to church with us, and then she'd have to go back to school because she was still in school too over in Orlando. And so we got to watch, I got to watch this relationship develop, and it was this really, really neat experience to be a part of, and we were able to just build, Megan and I were able to build such good relationships with them as their relationship with each other blossomed. And I knew, because I was his mentor and working on his future plans with him, that Parker was planning on proposing to her soon. But before he was going on a trip to hang out with her family in Wisconsin. And in Wisconsin, they did an ATV outing, a four-wheeler outing, and I guess something happened where they were on the trail and Parker was the last one in the group, and somehow he lost control of his ATV, and he swerved and went down in a ditch and hit a tree, and it knocked him unconscious, and the ATV caught on fire. And so her dad was not behind him, but he happened to glance back right before they rounded a corner, and he noticed that Parker wasn't with them. So he turned around and found him and dragged him off of the ATV and saved his life. He had to be airlifted to a burn unit in Minnesota because he had third-degree burns over, I think, 15% of his body. And so it was a long battle for him. It was a long battle for him to recovery. He made it through, but it was probably over a month in the hospital, doing some skin graft surgeries and different things, and just seeing Alyssa by his side, his girlfriend, committed to him, caring for him, loving him, being there for him as he recovered, not giving up on him. And he finally was able to get that proposal in, and a couple months later, I had the privilege of marrying them, and it was just so encouraging to see the way that their young love together got them through these hard times. I know that a lot of us have been through hard times. I'd be surprised if there's anyone in this room who hasn't been through some hard times. But it's such a blessing and an honor to think of the way that God puts the right people in our lives to take care of us, to love us, to be there for us. You know, I know that there's a couple right now that's watching us online because of what they're going through, that it's been a long, long battle, and they really want to be with us in person, but it's not quite time yet. And just to see their love for each other and seeing their support of each other and their love for our church, but more than anything, their love for God and their dedication to Him, it's just such a strong reminder that, you know, the only thing that counts is faith expressing itself through love. And that love actually fulfills our relationships, doesn't it? It fulfills our relationships. Love's fulfilling the needs of others. Love is fulfilling our relationships. The book of Galatians was written by the Apostle Paul. And all through that book, he's trying to address these issues that this church in the city of Galatia, they fell in love with Jesus. But then over time, they started to get distracted. Some people came in and started confusing them and directing them towards focusing on the law and focusing on these specific practices and these things that they needed to do in order to be right with God. You have to do these things. You have to follow these rules. And I love the New Testament and the idea that are just overwhelming us in the New Testament, from the teachings of Jesus, from the writings of Paul, from the writings of Peter, from the writings of John, from the writings of James. I've actually written down a couple key ones here. In Jesus' teaching, he says, "A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another." In John's writings, "Whoever claims to love God and hates a brother or sister is a liar. For whoever does not love their brother and sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen." In Peter's writings, "Above all, love each other deeply, because love covers over a multitude of sins." And in James' writings, "If you really keep the royal law found in Scripture, love your neighbor as yourself, you are doing right." This whole letter to this church is about love. And there's this verse in Galatians 5:14 that says, "For the entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one commandment, love one another." So this church was getting so caught up in following these rules that Paul's just trying to say, don't worry about all of that. Don't worry about any of that. Just love one another. Because when it comes down to it, the love actually fulfills all of our obligations to God. And so love actually fulfills. Love actually fulfills the needs of others and meets the needs of others. Love actually fulfills our relationships with each other. Love actually fulfills our obligations to God. Love just takes care of it all. And we hear so much about love, but this type of love, the type of love that Jesus is talking about, it's not romance. It's a special agape love. And so when we're looking at the entire verse, let's look at verse 6 of Galatians 5. It talks about, "For in Christ Jesus, neither circumcision nor uncircumcision has any value. The only thing that counts is faith expressing itself in love." So if this faith expressing itself in love, the circumcision thing is not really an issue for us anymore. We've kind of dealt with that. But sometimes we have other religious duties or religious expectations or religious ideas that we let take hold of us so much. Sometimes it's just a matter of getting in a rut of doing the same thing over and over again, that this church was letting circumcision kind of being the overall issue for them, being this big distraction for what they really need to be focusing on. For us, it could be a lot of different things. It could be being a member of a Sunday school class. It could be being a member of a small group. It could be on a volunteer team. It could be showing up here, your service on Sunday morning. All of these things are not bad things. Sometimes it's not the sin in our lives and the bad stuff in our lives, the temptations in our lives that stop us from expressing love. Sometimes it's the good stuff, but it's the good stuff that has distracted us from other opportunities that God has given us. And so we can keep doing these good things, and I think we have good intentions when we do these good things, but sometimes we lose sight of why we're doing them, and we lose sight of the other opportunities that we have before us. And so when we look at our lives, when we look at what we're trying to accomplish for God, are we expressing love? Are we expressing our faith through our loving actions and our behaviors with each other and with others? And so there are a lot of opportunities that I'm excited to introduce to you. We've done this card writing thing, which was really, really neat. We've been able to write cards to the elementary schools and the police department, and just letters of encouragement to let them know we love them, we care about them, we're thinking of them, and we really appreciate what they're doing. And I'm hoping that we're going to continue to do that. We have this neat new opportunity with Gabe where we can just give some furniture, and it's really going to help people out. It's really going, he's told me that there's some students that just show up and they just live in an empty apartment and sleep on the floor because they just have come here with nothing. And so we can do something very simple, just giving something, and it can really help them. But then the conversations that he gets to have, the relationships that he gets to have, the opportunities he gets to have to share Jesus with them because of the way we help them is faith expressing itself through love. And we're going to have another opportunity that's going to come up in a couple of weeks that I'm excited to talk about, something that's involving mentoring of children in our area, and so we'll be introducing that too. We have our At the Heights events and a lot of different opportunities that we have as a congregation and a community, and I love that we get to do things together. We get to do things together, and we get to work with God and for God, and just telling our community that we're here for them, that we care about them. But I want to challenge you on an individual level. We have opportunities at the church to get involved, to get plugged in, but sometimes God has a message for you. Sometimes God has a mission for you on an individual level that I might not know anything about, that no one might know anything about other than you, that there's this person that God has placed in your life that you can impact if you are just willing to express your faith in love. And so I want to challenge you to look for those opportunities, because we can get really involved in a lot of great activities. We can do a lot of good things. We can study the Bible and study the Bible and study the Bible. We can worship and praise and sing, and I think all of that is really good. I don't want you to miss that. I don't want you to say anything. I am not against studying the Bible. I love the Bible. And I am not against singing to Jesus. I love singing to Jesus. But if that becomes the end and we are missing the application. We are missing the application of our relationship with God, and we are missing the application of our knowledge about God and about Jesus, about salvation. If we're missing all of that because we're so focused on getting that these opportunities to share it, which is what Jesus has done for us. He came to this earth to share with us salvation, eternity, his love, just his presence, being in fellowship with God and with Jesus forever. He came to share that with us because he loves us. And what he wants to see in us is our faith in him expressed in love for others, for each other, for the world around us.